Hello and welcome to the unseen poetry question, that annoying fiddly little thing that's at the end of the exam paper that's only worth 8 marks. So this is the first thing you have to get hold of. Because it's worth hardly any marks, don't stress about it. It's much more important to put your time and effort into the Shakespeare question, which is 30 marks, and the unseen poem question, which is 24. So many students do badly in this exam because they think, oh, I've got to compare 2 poems I haven't seen before. That must be a mega question. I'm going to spend extra time on it. And what they end up doing is losing marks because those marks were so much easier to get on the longer questions. So whatever you do, don't spend ages on this question. The maximum amount of time you should spend is 15 minutes because in 2022, that's how the marks pan out. So you've got an hour and 45 minutes for the whole exam, which is roughly 1.7 minutes per mark, gives you 15 minutes. Do not go over that because at the beginning of another question, you will get far more marks than at the end of this poetry comparison. Okay, what do you have to do to get the marks in the poetry comparison? So I have been looking at past student answers to try and work this out and make sense of the incredibly brief mark scheme. So I'm going to look at 2 levels. One is 4 marks out of 8 and the other is 7 and 8 marks out of 8 so that you know how to pitch it. The good news is the first 4 marks are very easy to get. The shortest answer I've seen to do that was 104 words long. So you really can bosh things out really quickly and hoover up loads of the marks. What do you have to do then to get those 4 marks? Well, it is a comparison question. So points make prizes here. You've just got to make as many comparisons as you can that are relevant to the question, of course. So how many comparisons for 4 marks? 3 will do it. 3 good comparisons. What do I mean by good comparison? Just this. It has to make sense. Loads of students write stuff about structure, enjambment and stuff like that. The stanzas, which ends up being gibberish or unclear, don't get a mark. When you're writing about the poet's methods, absolutely anything counts, but what you write has to make sense. Don't take a punt. So what methods will always come up? Well, actually, I know that the methods that always come up are simile, metaphor, alliteration, and contrast. Those 4 things will always come up. You may also get personification. You'll probably get a repetition of some sort, but it's remarkable how easy it is to get the marks without naming those particular methods, even though they're always there. So what the examiner is doing is saying, look, as long as you name a method, like you say what it is, we don't care what you call it, we're just going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So it can literally be anything. They could be talking about nature, or they could be using imagery, or they could be using exclamation marks. It could be anything at all, and it doesn't matter. There isn't like a checklist of methods you've got to tick off. That said, for me, if I'm going into the exam and I know I'm going to find alliteration, simile, metaphor, very likely repetition, if I know those things are going to be there, then it's easy for me to spot them. But, don't stress because you can get by without spotting those ones. Right, you've made your 3 comparisons. How many quotations do you need? Well, obviously, you need at least 3 quotations. Now, you can bang those out really quickly. They could be 1 or 2 words long after all, so you don't have to go searching for them. There isn't a sense of, oh, did I pick the best quotation? Examiner doesn't care about that. Just quote, name a method and compare. This is similar or this is different. You've got the mark. Now, in the mark scheme for 4 marks, you need to make clear comparisons. Now, the exam board don't give the examiners any guidance as to what clear means, So I've gone back to students' answers and tried to work that out. And it means for at least 2 of your comparisons, you have more than one idea. So let me explain. You might pick on some repetition and then you'll say this suggests that blah, 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 but also blah, blah, blah. So you have 2 parts to your explanation. You might have a simile which suggests that the character is feeling lonely and sad. And then your second part would be, and this also implies that living this life would be better if blah, blah, blah. I'm making stuff up just to show you that you just need one sentence explaining what you think is going on with that quotation, and then a further sentence with a different idea in it to develop that. How many of those do you need for 4 marks? You only need 2. So you've written your 3 comparisons, only 2 of them need to be a little bit developed in that way. Okay, what do you need for 7 and 8 marks? Well, here you need some abstract stuff. This is what the exam board say. I want you to be critical. I want you to be insightful. I want you to be analytical. 3 abstract ideas which are like, well, what the hell does that mean? So again, I've gone back to answers where students have got 7 or 8 marks, and now I've worked out what it is you actually need to do. So let's talk about word count. I said the shortest word count for a grade 4 is 104 words. I mean, that was a good student. You probably need 100 to, what did I write down? Well, I had one person who waffled all the way over 200, but 100 to 200, easily going to get 4 marks out of 8. With 7 and 8 marks, you might think you need 1,000,000 words, but actually you don't. The shortest one I've seen is about 270 words. And that's still a lot. For many students, that's nearly a page of A4, but 15 minutes for a page of A4, anyone who's operating at, grade 6 and above can do that. So speed counts here. All right, so I need at least 270 words. How many comparisons are going to be in there? There were 3 for the 4-mark answer. Well, amazingly, you only need at least 4 good ones for 7 and 8 marks. So that's only 1 extra comparison. Lots of students put more comparisons in that, and that's a technique that I would advise. But hey, this is the end of an exam. You might be knackered and you might only get 4. Good news is you can still get 7 or 8 marks. A big difference though is the number of quotations that you use. So you need at least 6 quotations. What do you have to do with these 6 quotations? Well, a top skill that students at this level use is they pick 1-word or 2-word quotations. You need 6 of those. That means you're going to zoom in onto individual words, and that's an easy way to show that you're analysing. Remember that word, analytical. Now, you put in 6 of those bits of analysis, and the examiner then makes a judgment as to whether that's insightful and critical or not. Okay? So if they don't think it's enough, you'll get a 7. If they think it's brilliant, you'll get an 8. It's only 1 mark, let's not stress about this. Okay, how many methods do I need to spot Mr. Salles? Again, it is 6, 1 for each quotation. There's no bother at all, is it? Methods, again, they aren't written down in advance. There aren't some methods which are extra intelligent and some that are less intelligent or, less worthy of marks. Any method you spot, doesn't matter what it is. However, I would still give you that warning of not writing too much about structure, because those structure points are usually gibberish. In fact, you can not write about structure at all. Yeah, you don't have to write about the rhyme scheme. If there is a rhyme scheme and you notice something great about it, put it in, but you don't have to. Enjambment, caesura, stanzas. Oh, I just get fed up with all those because students write rubbish. Don't bother with that. You're just going to go for quotations and commenting. Now, an extra feature is that you will spend more of your explanation time writing about the author's purpose. That's easy to do. You're just going to use words like emphasises, suggests. Nothing fancy. You're just trying to get across to the examiner what on earth the poet is doing and why. And the why is this suggests, this implies, this emphasizes. You only need one sentence to really explain what the purpose of the poet is in the poem. So that's super easy to do. There's nothing complex there. It's only 8 marks. It's only 15 minutes. You've got time for that. Again, points make prizes, and you're just going to make as many comparisons as you possibly can that are relevant to the title. Usually that's at least 6. I've seen a lot more than that. You can get a lot more marks by bashing out loads of comparisons, but the good news is you only have to find 6 to get the full marks. Now, as an 8-mark question, it's not a proper essay, so you do not need a conclusion, and you probably don't need an introduction. That said, it is worth making your first sentence one which summarises the similarities or differences between the two poems in relation to the topic. So let's imagine that the topic was writing about loss. Then you would say, both poems write about loss, focusing on the pain of individuals. One good point, which you then develop by adding a second idea and suggest ways for those individuals to cope with their grief or pain. 2 ideas. Brilliant. Because it's got 2 ideas in it, the examiner's going, oh, right, okay, that's analytical. I'm moving it to the top of the mark scheme. Okay, what if you're a student who's better than a 4, not as good as an 8? Hey, Mr. Salles, help me. How do I get the 5 or the 6? Well, you get the 5 or the 6 by simply being thoughtful. That's the only difference in the mark scheme, really. So what does thoughtful mean? Well, it's easy. You have an extra comparison, so you have at least 4. You then have more explanations that you explain with more than one idea. So for the 4, you needed 2 explanations which had more than one idea in. Well, now you want 3 or 4 explanations which have more than one idea in. So, for example, the repetition of I love you conveys the speaker's desire to prove their love to the audience, or to the reader. Now, second idea, however, the constant repetition suggests that perhaps this is not a sincere emotion. I'm just making that up, but there you can see how you give a second explanation. Connectives, by the way, are a really useful way to do that. So having however, on the other hand, in contrast, or because they'll actually give you poems which are really similar, you're going to say similarly in both. Now, Google has been tracking everything you watch on YouTube, and they predict that the next most useful video for your revision is this one. Check it out. Good luck in the exam. Let me know in the comments, how did you do? See you on the other side.